Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're diving into something that is so incredibly important, yet it's just constantly misunderstood. We're talking about why neurodivergent women are so often targeted by manipulative, toxic partners and exactly how to break that vicious cycle. If you're a neurodivergent woman who has repeatedly found yourself trapped in narcissistic or psychopathic relationships, you've probably asked yourself a million times, why does this keep happening to me? Well, today we're going to unpack the actual science and psychology behind this pattern. We're going to talk about how to spot it, how to safely exit, and crucially, how to make absolutely sure it never happens to you again.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We've broken it down into 5 key parts: the neurodivergent vulnerability, the traits predators target, spotting the red flags, exiting the relationship, and finally, healing your nervous system. All right, let's jump right into section 1, the neurodivergent vulnerability.
I want to start here because we need to fundamentally, scientifically validate what you've experienced. Being targeted by a manipulative partner is actually a systemic issue related to how your brain processes the world. It is not a personal failure. It is not some flaw in your character. Just look at the staggering number, 7.3. Research shows that autistic adults are 7.3 times more likely to experience violent or sexual victimization compared to the general population. I mean, let that sink in for a second. That data point alone proves that the risks for neurodivergent individuals are just incredibly elevated. You're navigating a world that constantly misinterprets you, which unfortunately makes you far more vulnerable to exploitation.
And this inevitably brings us to complex PTSD, or CPTSD. Dr. Kim Sage defines this as a relational trauma. It's caused by a chronic, repeated violation of your safety and your sense of self at the hands of someone who is supposed to be safe. For neurodivergent women, a lifetime of masking your true self, constantly suppressing your literal needs just to fit in, and going through what Dr. Sage calls self-silencing, well, all of that already puts your nervous system in a chronic state of stress. And that baseline stress, it makes your brain highly susceptible to relational trauma. Here's the really heartbreaking part. Your natural, beautiful neurodivergent traits can unintentionally create these massive blind spots for malicious manipulation. Think about it. Autistic individuals often use literal thinking. You take words at face value, right? And you just assume others have the same good intentions that you do. But in the hands of a predator, taking words literally means you're going to miss their deceptive cues. Likewise, having high empathy is a wonderful, beautiful trait, but it can easily lead you to over-accommodate, internalize all the blame, and ultimately accept a manipulator's completely false reality. Which brings us perfectly to section 2, the traits predators target. We literally have to reframe how we view these vulnerabilities. They aren't weaknesses, they're actually weaponized strengths. It's absolutely crucial to understand exactly who is doing the targeting and what they're looking for. Clinical researcher Sandra Brown refers to these predators as belonging to the dark triad. So that's narcissism, sociopathy, and psychopathy. But here's the thing. You don't need to get bogged down in diagnosing exactly which one your partner is. What they all share is low conscience, low empathy, really high manipulation, and absolutely zero insight into how their behavior harms others. As Brown points out, these individuals are neurologically hardwired to lack the ability to sustain positive, non-manipulative change. Now, you might be thinking, well, don't predators just hunt for people with low self-esteem? Actually, no. A groundbreaking study from Purdue University, spearheaded by Sandra Brown, found the exact opposite. Predators actively hunt for what they call super traits. They are looking for individuals with high agreeableness, high empathy, and high tolerance. These are the amazing traits that get you targeted in the first place. But it's your high conscientiousness, your fierce loyalty, your deep dedication to working on the relationship, your intense desire to fix things. That's what keeps you stuck in the relationship long term. Just read this quote from Sandra Brown. They exploit everything. They come into the world exploitative. This is a foundational shift in understanding this whole dynamic. Manipulative behavior from a dark triad partner? It is a lifelong, hardwired tool. It is not just some little misunderstanding you can fix if you just explain yourself a bit better. And it is definitely not a lack of love that you can somehow cure by just loving them harder. They are functioning exactly as they were wired to function. Okay. Moving on to section 3, spotting the red flags. So, once you understand how they're wired and you recognize your own super traits, you've got to map out their predictable playbook. This is so your pattern-seeking neurodivergent brain can memorize it and spot it instantly. When you're targeted by a dark triad personality, you are inevitably going to experience cognitive dissonance. Now, this isn't just everyday confusion. It is a literal psychological paralysis. It's a deep brain fog caused by living with a Jekyll and Hyde persona. Your brain is just constantly working overtime, desperately trying to reconcile the amazing person who love-bombed you with the cruel person who abuses you. And over time, this constant state of hyperneural activity severely impacts your ability to make decisions. It leaves you completely frozen.
So how do you actually spot them in action? Well, here is the predator's playbook. First, you'll find yourself constantly litigating reality, meaning you're endlessly arguing over basic, obvious facts. Then there's the pathological lying. They'll sometimes choose to lie even when telling the truth would serve them just as well. And of course, you'll see the rubber band effect. They might go to therapy or act sweet for a few days, but they will inevitably snap right back to their original abusive baseline. They operate entirely in alternate realities of their own making.
Dr. Kim Sage asks this absolutely profound question. Do you find yourself apologizing when you are the one who originally got upset? I mean, really think about that for a second. You go to them with a hurt feeling, and somehow, by the very end of the conversation, your reality has been so incredibly distorted that you are the one apologizing for bringing it up and promising to work harder. That is a massive, flashing, neon red flag of narcissistic reality distortion.
Let's pivot to Section 4, exiting the relationship. So what happens when you finally see this toxic pattern? Let's talk about the logical, trauma-informed realities of safely exiting a relationship with a dark triad partner. If you're sitting there wondering if maybe you can just stick it out and manage their behavior, look at this statistic from Sandra Brown. 75% of survivors coming out of these relationships develop a trauma disorder like PTSD. The odds are completely against you escaping this dynamic without profound relational trauma. You simply cannot stay in the relationship to fix them without causing severe, lasting harm to your own brain and nervous system.
Exiting requires incredibly tactical, survival-based steps. First off, stop litigating reality. You are never going to convince them of your truth, so just stop trying. Second, implement the gray rock method. Give them absolutely zero emotional reaction and keep your contact as minimal and boring as a gray rock. Third, establish financial independence secretly, because so many survivors find themselves trapped by finances. And fourth, plan a safe exit. As Dr. Sage notes, trying to leave is very often the most dangerous time, so having a secure, quiet plan in place is paramount.
But man, the emotional reality of leaving is heavy. Dr. Sage reminds us, you have to grieve that it's not going to ever be the reciprocal relationship you hope or long for. Your high conscientiousness is screaming at you to stay and fulfill the commitment, but you have to actively grieve the fantasy of what you thought this relationship was. You have to radically accept the reality that it is fundamentally unfixable. Finally, let's look at Section 5, healing your nervous system. Once you are safely out, how on earth do you recalibrate your autonomy and heal a deeply impacted nervous system? Sandra Brown maps out a very sequential path for recovery here. Step 1 is totally non-negotiable. Get a professional trauma assessment. Don't go to a life coach or just a general counselor right away. If you have PTSD, you need a trauma-specialized therapist, period. Otherwise, you're honestly just wasting your time and money. Stay out of new relationships for a while so you don't accidentally repeat the pattern, and do the hard work to build fiercely strong boundaries around your beautiful super traits. There is a massive mindset shift that has to happen here. For years, you've been trapped analyzing their external deception, the lies, the manipulation, playing psychology videos on repeat. But Dr. Sage advises that real healing requires completely flipping the focus back to your internal truth. Stop overanalyzing their words and start trusting your body. That tight chest, that awful stomach ache you get when they speak to you, that is your highly attuned neurodivergent body giving you undeniable data. Trust it. And to actually break out of that hypervigilance and functional freeze, Dr. Sage offers some very literal, very actionable tips. Force yourself to just walk outside without music or a podcast. Just sit with the quiet. It's hard, I know. Take 10-second somatic check-ins using something like the How We Feel app. And honestly, this one is my favorite. Practice making tiny decisions. Like literally go to the grocery store and pick a brand new cereal you've never had before just to ask yourself, wait, do I actually like this? It gently rebuilds your ability to simply have an opinion again. Look, rebuilding your identity after masking for a dark triad partner, it takes a lot of time. As you give yourself permission to unmask, to feel, and to have a distinct opinion again, it is completely normal to feel absolutely terrified. Your nervous system was trained that having needs is dangerous. The anxiety you're feeling right now is simply your body learning that it's finally safe to just be you. Give yourself grace. Let's pull all of this together.
Your natural neurodivergent supertraits, your incredible empathy, your deep conscientiousness, your willingness to see the good in others, they are incredibly valuable. They were targeted by predators precisely because they are such beautiful qualities. But now, armed with this psychological pattern recognition, you are no longer blind to the playbook. You are protected. I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. Now that you clearly see the pattern of the dark triad, and you truly understand the immense value of your own supertraits, what boundaries will you build to protect those supertraits tomorrow? Your reality belongs to you. Defend it fiercely. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and please take care of yourselves out there.